storm incoming. Good evening, everyone. Chief Meteorologist James Zahara here in the Storm Track 8 Weather Center. Glad you can join us here on the News 8 Plus app. We're going strongest storms are located, not only with some of the very heavy rain, lightning, maybe some wind, but maybe even some possible rotation that may be going on, which we could be seeing just east of Monticello from those particular storms. Farther to the south now, we make our way into Clinton and Scott County. No worse than some heavy showers that are going on with this. We could be getting a little bit of some wind out of this, but any claps of thunder being noticed is just west of Dubuque. We can verify the velocity with this. And I would say with that bright red that we're seeing just south of DeWitt itself, near McCausland, that may have some good wind coming down from these rain-loaded downdrafts that may be coming down from these storms. Nothing severe with this, but given the amount of moisture and that humidity in the air, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some pretty good rain out of that. So if you're watching us in Clinton, even around Cordova, and yeah, you can see around Port Byron, you'll definitely be impacted by some of those rains that we see right there. Let me see if I can actually put a loop on this. And it's kind of actually moving more from southwest to northeast. So definitely McCausland, Cordova, Port Byron, you may actually get some raindrops out of this, but nothing really heavy. I think that's going to be making its way just north of your hometown. But certainly if you're watching us around Clinton, already some leading rain showers getting ahead of the main band, you'll be impacted by that. And if it does hold together, Thompson, even around Morrison, you'll likely be seeing some of those showers, some claps of thunder with that wave. Making our way in the immediate Quad Cities, and I think I can hear it outside our station here, getting some pretty heavy rain. There's a little clap of thunder that was noticed just across the river in downtown Bettendorf, maybe right around State Street. You can probably see that lightning icon right there, right around the Arsenal itself. And that's producing some pretty good rains, but nothing severe. It's moving at a pretty good clip, so we may get a quick tenth or even quarter of an inch of rain from that wave, making us through the immediate Quad Cities. I know there's some softball games that are going on in areas around the immediate Quad Cities. Corey Kuffler was telling me about that. Maybe some soccer that may be going on. Should be a small delay there, and then things will be pretty quiet, it looks like, after that. Going to extend it out a little bit more. And you can see in areas around Muscatine County, you can see Muscatine, you're now seeing some of that rain now taking place, some claps of thunder going on as well, especially just south and west of town, just west of around Fruitland Road there, south and west of Muscatine. So you'll hear some claps, some thunder, some nice rain that's going to come down from that, maybe even a quick tenth or a quarter of an inch can't be ruled out. It was an impressive line that we saw about an hour or two ago from this, but now it's beginning to kind of lose a lot of its intensity. So maybe it's just some good rain coming out of this that's going to enter its way around Louisa County. Already noticing that around Columbus Junction, just west of Grandview itself. Wapello, if it holds together, yeah, you may get a nice little rain there that may add up to a quick tenth of an inch, maybe even some claps of thunder. And then as we make our way a little farther off toward the south and west, right there around Henry County, Iowa, seeing a nice little cluster of storms just north and west of town. Let me see if there's actually anything going on. If I go to the velocity mode here, there could be maybe some broad rotation maybe taking place here just east of Fairfield. If I had to go and put my arrow on here, I can show you what I'm talking about. Maybe right around there, just east of Fairfield. Now keep in mind, the radar beam is so far away from this particular cell. So we'll keep an eye on this right here, but east of Fairfield, there is some type of broad rotation that may be taking place there. So definitely be keeping an eye on that, but no question, that's a good supercell that we see there that continues to make its way off to the south and east. So watching us in Mount Pleasant, I don't have to even put a tracker on this. It will certainly be impacting you here in the next few minutes as far as the heavy rain and some of the lightning that's going to be accompanied with this as well. Likely maybe a tenth to even a half an inch of rain that may just miss, I think, the Mount Pleasant area. May have a better chance around Salem, as you can see just south of Mount Pleasant, coming up in the next, I would say, 20 or 30 minutes or so. Okay, so as we go ahead and wind this picture out even more, that's kind of the gist of it that we are seeing here from this broken line that continues to make its way off toward the east. After this wave moves on through, then we'll be dealing with likely the next wave of storms that will be coming in out of the west. And I can show you that here in just a second as I kind of drag my clicker all the way down to here. That's what I want to show everyone. And as it comes up here, this is going to be the next disturbance that we'll be keeping an eye on. The question is, will it have any showers or storms that may impact our morning commute? We'll have to keep an eye on that area of activity. Looks like right now around eastern Nebraska and even around western Iowa. I have a feeling that's going to kind of fall apart that we see here. But what I'm curious about is if we do not see this area of activity right here, if that falls apart late tonight into early tomorrow morning, then we're going to have to be concerned about some additional thunderstorms that will produce some drenching rains with that, and maybe a good intense wind. What we call, I love this phrase called rain-loaded downdrafts, okay? You got some intense rain that comes down from the storm, and the air just ahead of that pushes so fast that it can cause actually some damage, okay? So that's kind of what we're concerned about with this disturbance as it makes its way off to the east. That may produce some additional showers and thunderstorms there. So that's why we have a weather impact alert for that wave later tomorrow, okay? And that's only if we do not see any activity come in tomorrow morning. If we don't see any activity tomorrow morning, that we really make the air very unstable, we'll have some good dynamics, good shear with it, that we can actually see some of these supercell thunderstorms make its way across the area. The concern I have here will be some of these rain-loaded downdrafts that could produce some intense wind gusts that could exceed 60 or even 70 miles an hour or so. Okay, so like what you're doing now, if you're getting ready to head on out this evening, hopefully you have our interactive Storm Track 8 app ready to go, okay, in these situations, because you can interact with it, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can show how the storms have been behaving in the past hour or so, you can actually show how the storms will behave going into the future in the next hour or so. So it's a great tool to have, especially if you're not able to watch us right here on the Storm Track 8 Plus app, okay? So that is a great tool to have in these situations. I'm going to go ahead and put our future track in the motion here. And the storms that we're dealing with right now are certainly a lot farther off to our south, okay? So I think by the time we get to sometime after midnight, any activity we're witnessing from these storms will be pushing their way off to the south and east. And by the time we get near sunrise tomorrow morning, I think the coverage appears to be isolated with partly to mostly cloudy skies after that. I want to try and get this to about 5:30 or so, 5 o'clock, right there. Now here's what I see, at least from our latest house model. Okay, and our house model has been pretty accurate, especially within 24 hours or so of the event itself. This is showing around 2:30 come tomorrow. And you can see off to the west a nice line of some showers and thunderstorms, and you can see this kind of bending that is going on right there, okay? That's an indication that we're getting some strong winds that may be coming down from these particular storms. And you can see by the time we get to about 4 o'clock or so, that same model is still showing that bend that is taking place ahead of this cluster of storms even off to the west of us. So this is where the concern is for being impacted by these intense wind gusts that may be going on across our area. As we continue with this, going into about 7 o'clock in the evening, we still may be dealing with some very strong scattered showers and thunderstorms. And I would say after 8 or 9 o'clock, definitely the threat's going to be all said and done. I think by the time we get to about after midnight, as you see here, we'll get some showers, a few embedded thunderstorms with this. And then by the time we get to about Saturday morning, some broken clouds, maybe some fog here and there. But I think the threat of any more wet weather should be coming to an end and stay that way as we go into the weekend itself. So putting these two waves together, especially the one that's anticipated later tomorrow, we're talking about most of our models agreeing of well over 2 inches of rain, okay, before we get to that weekend. Only one model shows 1 inch of rain, but even that is pretty decent, and not surprised because this is some nice Gulf moisture that is going to be rinsed out in a big way. Okay, and once again, anytime we talk about any type of Gulf moisture, rainfall amounts in spots are going to likely be very heavy. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind too that there could be some poor drainage areas out there that could produce some street flooding, especially if this is a very heavy, blinding rain that may be taking place heading into, especially later on tomorrow. We certainly don't want to see that as we head into tonight with some of the rains that are actually going on. And once again, I'm going to make my way back to the radar itself. And once again, I want to thank everyone who has been joining us here on the Storm Track 8+ app, giving you this weather discussion that is going on. Nothing really severe that we see, at least in most of our hometowns. The only exception has been in areas to our north with counties such as Dubuque now, and even a small part of Joe Davies County that we see here. Well, a little concerned about here is this possible warning that's going on with not only the severe thunderstorm warning around Dubuque, but the one that we're still keeping an eye on, and you can barely see it. Can you see that red polygon there? That's a tornado warning that is going on for another 15 more minutes. And I'll pop it up again. The good news here, it's in an open area, so no towns are affected, are right now going to be impacted as we go into these next 15 minutes or so. But it has a lot of rain with it. You can see how these lightning bolts are being centered around a particular area, and that could very likely be where we may be dealing with some type of spin that may be going on in the atmosphere. And we're looking at right here, that area in particular, okay? Putting it into motion and focus on that area. You can see it's kind of moving a bit more east, kind of jogged its way a little bit more to the south. So right there on 61, Otter Creek, small town, but the good news is, I think if you're watching us from Otter Creek, it may be just missing you, at least what we're seeing here on the radar for that possible rotation. It may be losing a bit of some dynamics there. So that would be some fairly good news. If it kind of holds its position a little bit more, it looks like it kind of wants to take that turn a bit more south, and you can see some of the red impulses coming out from it. And when I say that, you can see some of those red dots, blotches in there. That's probably indicating some pretty good wind that's also taking place as well. That is just north and west of the Maquoketa area. So we'll keep an eye on that possible rotation that we see here, at least on the radar. It's in an open area, so that is some fairly good news, and hopefully it's going to lose a lot more of its punch by the time it gets to Maquoketa itself. But that tornado warning, the polygon itself, is beginning to be cut in half more and more. So be a little bit surprised if they extend this warning even more so, okay? I'm actually not at my computer right now, at least when it comes to the discussion. Hang on, folks, let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to widen the shot out here, and once again, kind of give you an idea of the motion of these scattered storms that continue to make their way off to the south and east. Let me pop up my radar. What I'm going to be doing here is going to the chat that is going on with our friends over at the National Weather Service here, and seeing what any updates that we may be noticing from that area of activity. Let's see here. So one of the things that they've been keeping an eye on, once again, is the activity located up to our north with that one area around western Jackson County, okay? And it looks like they keeping a monitor on that that rotation there, but kind of losing a little bit of steam is because it's being really choked off by any type of inflow going into it. So they're going to keep the warning going on for another 11, 12 more minutes or so, and likely go ahead and cancel that. But no doubt, by this whole line that we're seeing here, these are the strongest storms that are going on, and certainly indicated by the core of lightning that is taking place now into western Jackson County. And it looks like the heaviest of that storm is going to be just near or north of Maquoketa, likely grazing even the Bellevue area. If we had to zoom in even more, definitely has a target for Andrew. That's going to be seeing some of this very heavy rain that's going to come from this cluster of storms. And as it continues that motion around Preston, if you're watching us in Savannah, and I would say even the extension of this cluster that's now making its way through parts of Clinton County, Thompson and Savannah, definitely you're going to be seeing some of that pretty good rain as that makes its way northward. So no doubt these are the strongest storms that are going on. The storms that we've been noticing just south of the I-80 corridor, those are really beginning to fall apart. So that is some good news. Now there is a looks like there's going to be a flash flood warning out for those storms that we just noted to our north. It is some pretty good rain coming down that we're seeing here. So let me get the information on that flash flood warning that is going on until about 1 o'clock in the morning. Now we've seen these flash flood warnings, the time of these to be cut a lot earlier. But it's only showing what we've been seeing on the radar itself as far as the rainfall is concerned. And indications are there have already been about 1 to 3 inches of rain that's already fallen within this area, especially in Dubuque and parts of Jones and extreme northern Jackson County. I've already seen about 1 to 3 inches of rain, and additional maybe 1 or 2 inches is going to be possible, and that's why they're concerned about water that may rise very quickly, especially in poor drainage areas. Okay, so let me get the details on this by our graphic. I'm going to get the warning up here. Let's see, they got the tornado warning there. That's going to come to an end, so I'm not really too worried about that. What I want to do is get the warning out. Let's see, it's really hard when you have a warning within a warning itself. There we go, and that's that flash flood warning until 1 a.m., and that does include Dubuque and Galena, like I said, until 1 a.m. But we've seen these flash flood warnings that are issued get canceled well before the expiration. So it could be a lot earlier. Maybe we'll see this flash flood warning stay, given the time, which is coming up to 7, maybe around 10 or 11 o'clock. I think they'll expire that flash flood warning. But it's only because the radar is indicating that in this particular area we've seen from these storms, already 1 to 3 inches of rain has already fallen, and any additional rain certainly caused some high water to take place. Basements can flood very easily without warning, so just keep that in mind. Rural areas, smaller roadways, always concerned to be seeing some high water. So if you see any of that high water, if you're getting ready to go out, if you have to go out, just make sure that you do see any high water, turn around, don't drown. That's the phrase that we usually use in these situations. So that's a flash flood warning that was just issued for parts of Jackson, Jones County, Dubuque County, and western Joe Daviess County until around 1 a.m. Once again, those are the only warnings that are going on to our north. Everything that we see to our south are non-severe but drenching thunderstorms north of the I-80 corridor, and then some dying showers, few thunderstorms that we're noticing just outside of Muscatine, Wapello, and even around Mount Pleasant. Those storms continue to really slowly fade. Once these storms kind of move on out, then I think the coverage that we may be looking at is going to be very widely scattered to almost isolated. That tornado warning, like we said, another 7 more minutes, and I think they're going to go ahead and cancel that. So that is pretty much the latest I see from all these from all this activity that is going on. Like I said, once this wave moves on by, looking pretty quiet for the rest of the night, but the concern will be going into especially later on tomorrow, especially if we don't see any morning convection that takes place tomorrow morning. If we don't see any of that convection tomorrow morning, any showers or drenching thunderstorms, then we have to really be concerned about those later day showers and thunderstorms that may take place, that may have same ingredients that we're dealing with right now, some blinding rain, some rain-loaded downdrafts that could be intense enough to produce some very strong winds of over 60 or 70 miles an hour. If we see that convection throughout most of tomorrow morning, then the threat for seeing some of that activity, those extreme severe storms, will be very low graded. Okay, so that's kind of the scenario that we're looking at as we head into tomorrow. And of course, we'll let you know coming up on, certainly come tonight at 10 o'clock, but more importantly, on Good Morning Quad Cities from 4:30 to 7 with meteorologist Andrew Stusky. He'll give you the latest of what we could be anticipating later on tomorrow. And likely Andrew's going to be doing a 9 o'clock a.m. severe weather discussion regarding the potential for some of that severe weather. So guys, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you on News 8 at 10. See you then.